off. What's included? Everything. Beautiful and motion furniture, dining sets, and bedroom furniture. Plus free delivery and up to 60 months, zero interest financing. If you snooze, you lose. So don't let time run out on you. Beat the clock and save 60% off. Saturday, 10 a.m. till 9 p.m. only. And only at Marlowe Furniture.
ABC 7 News at 6. It's happening now.
Good morning, America. Tale of the tape. Is it President Trump? ABC News exclusively obtaining a recording that's raising eyebrows. The recording appears to capture Trump saying the U.S. ambassador to Ukraine had to go. The conversation apparently included Lev Parnas, a man Trump claims not to have met. What the president is saying now.
Ready to respond. President Trump's legal team set to begin their arguments this morning in the impeachment battle. The backlash overnight from this reported warning to GOP senators.
Vote against the president and your head will be on a pike.
Plus, how the Bidens could play a major role in Trump's defense.
Virus emergency. With new cases of the coronavirus reported all over the globe, this morning Hong Kong taking drastic measures, shutting down schools. How hospitals are preparing here for more expected cases.
Caught on camera, terrifying carjacking. A man takes off in a family's car at the airport, a mother clinging to the door, her baby still inside. How it all ended.
But I got a blank space, baby, and I'll write your name.
And no show, Taylor Swift leaving a blank space at tomorrow's Grammys, reportedly pulling out of a surprise performance. Did Bad Blood
You know it used to be mad love.
play a part?
Live from ABC News in New York, this is Good Morning America.
And good Saturday morning, everybody. Great to have you with us. Let's get straight to our top story. You're looking live right now at the U.S. Capitol, where today the president's legal team will be making their case in the Senate impeachment trial.
Overnight, the House managers finished their opening arguments, making the case that President Trump abused his office and tried to cover it up.
Also, overnight, ABC News obtaining a recording that appears to be a conversation including President Trump and Lev Parnas, an associate of Rudy Giuliani. The president has repeatedly denied knowing. ABC's David Wright is in Washington with this story. David, good morning.
Good morning, Eva. As his lawyers begin to mount their defense today, the president and his allies are also pushing back on new information that would seem to undermine the president's statements about one of Giuliani's indicted associates. That new information from a recording obtained by ABC News.
The biggest problem there, I think, where we need to start is we got to get rid of the ambassador.
ABC News has obtained this audio tape of what sources say was an April 2018 meeting in the Trump International Hotel in Washington. On the recording, Rudy Giuliani associate Lev Parnas appears to be telling the president that the U.S. ambassador to Ukraine has been bad-mouthing him.
Basically, walk around telling everybody, wait, he's going to get impeached, just wait. I mean,
get rid of her.
Hooray.
Okay, get her out tomorrow. I don't care. Get her out tomorrow. Take her out, okay? Do it.
Trump has repeatedly said he doesn't know Parnas, and that if they did meet, it was only in passing.
I don't know him. Perhaps he's a fine man. Perhaps he's not. I know nothing about him. I don't know him. I don't believe I've ever spoken to him.
Were you relying on Lev Parnas to get rid of your ambassador?
No, but I have a lot of people, and, he's somebody that, I guess, based on pictures that I see, he goes to fundraisers, but I am not a fan of that ambassador.
Speaking to Fox News, the president readily admitted he did want Ambassador Marie Yovanovitch removed.
Were you telling Parnas to get rid of her? I mean, you have a State Department.
Well, I wouldn't have been saying that. I probably would have said if it was Rudy there or somebody, but I make no bones about it. I want to have ambassadors. I have every right. I want ambassadors that are chosen by me. I have a right to hire and fire ambassadors.
Ambassador Yovanovitch features prominently in the Democrats' case against the president. She took issue with Rudy Giuliani's effort to push Ukraine to dig up dirt on the Bidens. Democrats say that's why Trump abruptly ordered her recall.
How did that make you feel?
Terrible, honestly. I mean, after 33 years of service to our country, it was terrible. It's not the way I wanted my career to end.
But the president and his allies insist he was within his rights to do so.
An ambassador serves at the pleasure of the president. You know who said that? The ambassador herself.
Democrats say Yovanovitch didn't deserve to be fired.
This is the kind of despicable conduct that the president engages in. The despicable kind of conduct.
Important to underscore here, the recording is not in itself proof of anything illegal, but it does strengthen the Democrats' case that the president may have been directly involved in his Ukraine effort. It also suggests there may well be other information out there relevant to the impeachment that we haven't yet heard. Whip?
All right, David Wright for us. Thank you. We do want to turn now to the impeachment trial. President Trump's legal team preparing to give their opening arguments this morning, setting the stage for the Senate to decide if it will allow witnesses to be called. A new ABC News Washington Post poll finds 2/3 of Americans surveyed think the Senate should call new witnesses to testify before deciding the president's fate. ABC's Kira Phillips is on Capitol Hill with more on that. Kira, good morning.
Good morning, Whit. Well, they say they're going on the attack. Trump's legal team promising a compelling case today, while Trump took to Twitter referring to his historic impeachment trial as, quote, Death Valley in TV. Democrats working late into the night as they wrapped up their third and final day of opening arguments Friday, laying out their case on the obstruction of justice charge against President Trump.
He orchestrated a cover-up. And he did it in plain sight.
Trump is facing 2 articles of impeachment that accuse him of abusing the office of the presidency and obstructing congressional efforts to investigate his dealings with Ukraine.
But instead of halting the president's corrupt scheme, they worked overtime to conceal it from the American people.
Friday was one of the last opportunities for Democrats to convince these key Republican senators to call new witnesses, like former National Security Advisor John Bolton, who has said he would testify if subpoenaed by the Senate. Some Republicans not happy by this statement from Democratic prosecutor Adam Schiff.
The Trump confidant said that GOP senators were warned, vote against your president, vote against the president, and your head will be on a pike. Now, I don't know if that's true.
That is completely, totally false. It's insulting and demeaning to everyone to say that we somehow live in fear and that the president has threatened all of us.
At the heart of the House case, the allegation of a quid pro quo, that Trump withheld nearly $400 million in military aid as he carried out a pressure campaign on Ukraine to investigate his political rival, Joe Biden, and his son, Hunter Biden, who served on the board of the Ukrainian gas company, Burisma. Today, Trump's legal team taking center stage. Jay Sekulow giving a glimpse into what to expect as they gear up to defend the president.
We're going to refute the allegations that they've made, and we're going to put on an affirmative case as well.
And Dan, as I mentioned, the big question now, will Republicans allow Democrats to call in new witnesses like former National Security Advisor John Bolton? The president actually telling me just a few days ago in Davos, Switzerland, he would love for Bolton to testify, even though he's the one blocking him from doing so. Dan?
So many big questions looming over this trial. We really appreciate your reporting. So much to talk about now. So let's bring in ABC News Supreme Court contributor Kate Shaw, and from Texas, ABC News Chief Political Analyst Matthew Dowd. Kate, let me start with you. Do you think the House managers, the Democrats, did a good job of unfurling their opening arguments over the past couple of days?
You know, I think that the House managers, led by Adam Schiff, made a very lawyerly presentation. So they started with the Constitution. They said that the drafters basically meant to target serious abuses of public office for private gain, and they have tried to show that that is exactly what happened here when President Trump attempted to coerce Ukraine into assisting him with his re-election prospects. On obstruction of Congress, the second article of impeachment, they've argued that if the president can wholesale stonewall Congress, he is essentially above the law. So they say that all of this amounts to high crimes and misdemeanors and warrants conviction and removal from office.
A lawyerly presentation, you say, Kate, but Matt, let me turn to you. Do you think any Republican minds were changed here?
Well, I think you have to look at it 2 ways. Do I think any Republican minds were changed on conviction of the president? No. Do I think there's still 3 or 4 or 5 Republicans sitting out there that I think lean towards the idea that maybe more witnesses should be subpoenaed or more documents should be subpoenaed. But I think they're now going to sit with what starts today and then what goes on Monday and Tuesday on the defense of the president and wait and see. But ultimately, what this did is solidify the Democrats against the president, and probably the base of Republicans that was for the president, it solidified them. So the only ones we should be paying attention to are those 5 or 6 Republicans who might vote to subpoena other people.
Most opinions remain calcified. Let's talk about what's going to happen today. The Trump team starts their opening arguments, a truncated version, because they're going to do most of it on Monday and Tuesday because the ratings will be better. What do you think we should expect here? We've been hearing that they're going to focus on the Bidens. Is that a smart strategy?
I think we are likely to hear a lot about the Bidens in terms of, you mentioned ratings. You know, I think that the president's lawyers are going to be somewhat cross-pressured because I think the president clearly does want fireworks, ratings. I'm not sure that those swing senators that Matt was just talking about, or Mitch McConnell, or Chief Justice Roberts, who's presiding over the trial, are going to necessarily appreciate those kinds of theatrics. And so I'm not quite sure what kind of presentation we're likely to see. You know, on the substance, I do think that they're likely to talk a lot about Burisma and the Bidens. You know, they will probably also make the legal case that there is no crime charged in these articles of impeachment, and they claim that impeachment requires proof of a crime, not just abuse of power. You know, as Schiff sort of anticipated that argument, he sort of spelled out there's a lot of authority on the other side of that position. So I think we're going to see probably a sort of multi-pronged strategy start to play out today, and then I think we'll see much more of it play out on Monday.
The other big news this morning, and Matt, let me turn to you about this, is this audio tape that ABC News obtained first that appears to show the president talking to Lev Parnas about firing our erstwhile ambassador to the Ukraine. Any political or legal ramifications to this audio that you can see?
Well, we'll know more later. There could be some legal ramifications related to the idea that this was an unsecured phone left there, it sounds like, and then it began this conversation and then continued the conversation in many different ways on this. Do I think it's going to affect this impeachment hearing in the United States Senate? No, because I think almost everybody in there already thought the president got personally involved and wanted her gone. So the fact that he's recorded saying that he wanted her gone isn't news to most of those people in that Senate chamber.
Matthew Dowd, Kate Shaw, thank you very much. Both of you, really appreciate it on a Saturday morning. And I want to remind everybody, we are going to have live coverage of the Senate impeachment trial starting at 10 Eastern right here on ABC. And while I have you, another reminder, we have exciting news regarding ABC News with today's extraordinary news cycle. The timing is really perfect for the new ABC News Live streaming service everywhere. Breaking news, context, analysis, digging deeper, making sense of all the news. ABC News Live launches Monday night, February 3rd. Eva, over to you.
Well, now to the deadly new virus spreading around the world. The Wall Street Journal reporting that the U.S. government is arranging a charter flight to evacuate U.S. citizens and diplomats from the city of Wuhan, ground zero for this outbreak. The coronavirus spreading with confirmed cases across Asia, in the U.S., and now in Europe and Australia. ABC senior foreign correspondent Ian Pannell is in Hong Kong with the latest. Ian, good morning.
Yeah, good morning, Eva. That's right. We're getting news partly from the Wall Street Journal, but we also heard from the State Department on Friday that the Consul General in Wuhan, remember there is a U.S. consulate there, had said that families, personnel, non-emergency personnel should leave the city, also urging all Americans to leave Wuhan. Now, we know that the airport is closed, so of course it makes sense that the U.S. government is chartering a plane. We understand from that Wall Street Journal report that there are something like 1,000 U.S. citizens at the U.S. consulate there making efforts to try and contact them. Of course, not everyone will necessarily want to leave because they'll have family there, but that's the situation there as we report from Hong Kong, a city that's just declared a virus emergency, with all schools now staying closed until mid-February as the crisis escalates across this region and around the world.
This morning, the numbers infected with a potentially deadly coronavirus soaring. There are now more than 1,300 cases in China alone, with patients now in every part of the world's most populated country, bar Tibet. And this is the scene in the epicenter of the outbreak. A seemingly impossible task as dozens of excavators work through the night to build a brand new 1,000-bed hospital in just 10 days. Now, a second 1,300-bed facility has also been announced. The space is desperately needed, as are more medics, with more now being flown in to help with the rapidly growing crisis. There are now 35 cases outside China in 13 countries or territories. Today, Australia and Malaysia joined this growing list. And now, with 2 confirmed cases in the US, health officials saying they expect more Americans will be diagnosed with this potentially deadly virus in the coming days. The latest confirmed case is a woman in her 60s from Chicago. She returned from China last week and fell sick 3 days later. The CDC are now testing 63 patients from 22 states.
Our focus right now is on travelers returning from Wuhan, but the situation is changing rapidly, and we're continuing to assess, and we'll make new guidance if needed.
Meanwhile, officials in China now confirming the youngest known case so far. This is a 2-year-old girl suffering from the coronavirus, rushed to hospital. Now, she's said to be in a stable condition, but with most cases in older patients so far, this is a potentially worrying development as this crisis just seems to escalate. Whit?
No question about that. Ian, panel for us, thank you so much. We do want to bring in our ABC News chief medical correspondent, Dr. Jennifer Ashton, with more on all of this. Thank you for being with us on this. The images we're seeing out of China are very alarming, obviously, but walk us through this type of response to an outbreak like this.
That's really important, Whit, because we're talking about basic infection control and how disease detectives deal with epidemics. It starts with surveillance, and that's to really track down the geographic spread and the time spread, which can tell us about the incubation period. Then you move on to controlling the virus, the source, which sometimes will include isolation or quarantine, and then education, really important, not just for the public, but for the healthcare professionals and public health officials dealing with this.
And you spent some time just yesterday in a New York City hospital. Yeah. What did you learn about how they're preparing?
We were at New York City Health and Hospitals Bellevue here. It was very clear they are completely prepared, as are really every hospital in the country, really. They practice drills. They go through this on a regular basis, not just for something like coronavirus, but for any pathogen or infectious disease.
Quickly, give us some perspective on this as people are taking in this information, because we're talking about what's happening in China, here in the U.S., but still thousands of people have died in the U.S. from the flu.
Exactly. That's a key perspective, and so is history. So again, it's evolving, it's dynamic. We are learning as we go. The CDC flu estimates just out yesterday, an estimated 15 million flu cases and 8,200 deaths. People should be more concerned right now with the flu in this country.
Absolutely, but we're still watching it, this developing story. Yep. Jennifer Ashton, thank you so much. Bet. We appreciate it. Dan?
Whit and Jen, thank you. Another health-related story. New injuries being reported this morning from those Iranian airstrikes on U.S. positions over in Iraq earlier this month. The Pentagon now saying the number of American service members suffering from traumatic brain injury has tripled. ABC's Julia McFarlane is in London with details. Julia, good morning to you.
Good morning, Dan. The announcement contradicts initial statements from the Pentagon that no Americans were harmed in the attacks earlier this month. Now, we know 34 service members suffered traumatic brain injury related to the January 8 attack, when Iran fired missiles into the Al-Assad airbase in Iraq. Now, half of the injured have returned to work. The remaining 17 service members have been flown to Germany and the U.S. for further treatment. The updated figure is more than 3 times the reported number last week, when the Pentagon acknowledged that 11 service members were suspected of having concussion-related injury. Now, reacting to that news earlier this week, while at Davos for the World Economic Forum, President Trump said that he had heard they had headaches, and I can report it is not very serious, adding that he did not consider the injuries as severe as those suffered by troops hit by roadside bombs in Iraq. At a press conference yesterday, the Pentagon's chief spokesman said the symptoms were associated with concussion, adding that some had worsened over time. Eva?
All right, Julia McFarlane for us. Thank you. Well, the frantic search for survivors in Turkey after a major earthquake killed more than 20 people and injured at least 1,000. Some 500 first responders are searching through the rubble after a 6.7 magnitude earthquake rocked eastern Turkey Friday evening. The moment the quake hit, caught on camera with people running, as you can see, for their lives.
All right, let's get a check of the weather. Rob Marciano is in Denver, Colorado for us this morning. Rob, good morning to you.
Hi, good morning, Whit. We are inside a very cool facility, and we have a lot of exciting things that we're going to share with you throughout the program. Let's talk about the weather first, though. We've got a little bit of snow that came through Chicago, the backside of this very slow-moving system, just cold enough to dump 1-2 inches of it there. You see it difficult to get around in Chicago, and that's going to continue. You can kind of see a double-barrel low that's pushing towards the east, and very heavy rain into D.C. and Philly right now. Some sub-freezing air in parts of Pennsylvania, New York, and New Jersey. So at least to start, some freezing rains. But I think we'll see more in the way of urban flooding in the afternoon. New York up I-95, Bridgeport, Hartford, New Haven, and again getting through Boston could see some coastal flooding as well, and windy conditions, and then more snow on the back side of this. But today in general is going to be a bit